have to ban assault weapons, like the one used in Parkland. Used just 5 years ago today. And in so many of the mass shootings in America, for the lives lost, the lives we can save as a nation, we must say enough is enough is enough.
Joining me now, Congressman, good one from Florida, Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, one of the things that really drives me insane about the Democratic Party today is that in the wake of a mass shooting, when normal people, human beings, are feeling a heart for somebody losing their son, their daughter, their brother, their sister, just a human response, is they don't ever have a human response for it. They pile on right off the bat, grab the guns, politics, and I think that, as much as anything else, has created a lot of division in this country.
I agree with you. It's really tough, especially looking at the anniversary of what happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, all of the work that the legislature did at the time, the legislature I was in, the study, the research. When you come past all that to this, 5 years later, and you have the president trying to use it for political purposes, it's really just outrageous and obscene. We know that what happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, there were some systemic failures happened at the school level, happened with local law enforcement that could have prevented this tragedy. And so legislatively, Florida responded to do a lot of things to try to make sure that something like this never happened in our state again, namely hardening schools, dealing with how you enter and exit facilities, so on and so forth. But to see the politics always come up first before you actually get to the facts and get to solutions, that's what's most disheartening.
Speaking of the politics, Pete Buttigieg and this whole train derailment thing, well, here's what he said.
But it couldn't be a more exciting time for transportation. It's had its challenges.
Right.
If you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years, partly because of the pandemic, we've faced issues from container shipping to airline cancellations. Mm-hmm. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
But also the best time ever to be working in transportation because of these resources. And we know ultimately it's in the hands of those who are on the ground that the biggest difference is going to be made.
Congressman, it seems like nobody in this administration actually takes their job seriously at all. It's all just a big game. It's all just a big, well, it's a stepping stone on the way to my next presidential run, my next gig at CNN. We have people in East Palestine whose skin is falling off, and these people think everything's just a big funny joke.
It's really sad to see this. First of all, Pete Buttigieg is not good at his job. Nobody ever said he was qualified to do this job. It was all politics. It was all intersectionality from the left. And so that's why we have somebody who doesn't know the first thing about the logistical system that is transportation in the United States, who now is the top guy. It's really unfortunate for our people. I've seen him go out and he makes these comments, and the reporters, they ask him all these questions that have nothing to do with what his job actually is. So it's very frustrating, especially with what's going on in Ohio with this ecological tragedy, this human tragedy, because there are Americans whose lives are being destroyed as a result of this accident. And I don't want to put this on his head as it's his fault the accident occurred, but for him not to have a firm grip and understanding, and that's what he's talking about and leading with, that shows his complete disregard for the tragedy that's happening in Ohio right now.
It feels like this is universal across the leadership of all of our cultural institutions now, not just government, but definitely government, from CDC, FBI. It doesn't matter which institution you talk about. It feels like the American people are separating from these institutions because they don't trust them anymore. They've been lied to so many times. There's no effort to come back and reconcile after these lies. And it feels like the country's in a bad place, if that makes sense.
Well, look, not steal a line from President Trump. Well, we have a lot of people in these agencies who simply do not know what they're doing. Look, right here in Southwest Florida, we were dealing with Hurricane Ian 5 months ago. I just left a meeting with my mayors. My mayors are complaining that FEMA doesn't have enough inspectors down here just to approve of work that our local governments have done just to reopen public facilities. They said that they were going to start a housing mission in Southwest Florida. There are 53 trailers in Southwest Florida. And the excuse is that some of these areas are in a flood zone, so we can't place a trailer in a flood zone. So instead of FEMA just cutting the red tape and doing what needs to be done, I have people who are living under bridges. It's this type of stuff that comes from the agencies, which is why the American people are not even frustrated with their government at this point. They're just sick of their government. And it's going to require people to come in, get the job done, ignore the fan dance of saying things the right way and preening for the cameras, and just get to work on behalf of the American people.
Speaking of the American people, inflation is one of those things that's touching pretty much everybody right now, especially everyone and even middle class people. Here's the President of the United States lying about it.
Today's report on inflation shows the good news is that inflation in America is continuing to come down. It's fallen 7 straight months. There's more to go. Food prices at the grocery store are coming down. Gas prices are down $1.60 since their peak.
The American people are paying 15% more for goods and services in this country. Hourly wages are down. People are watching their standard of living disappear. And the President of the United States of America gives speech after speech telling them how well they're doing.
That's because the man hasn't gone grocery shopping in probably 15 years. I mean, let's just be honest. Joe Biden doesn't buy his own food. So how does he know what's going on in real America? He doesn't. And this is what is so frustrating. You have a man who basically decided to spend $2 trillion when we didn't have to. He created the worst inflation in 40 years. Now people are clapping for him because it's slowly coming down. Inflation is crippling young families and families on fixed income and poor families. I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, you're being hurt by this. And Joe Biden has no solutions because the only solution is to unwind his political agenda that he has dropped on the American people's head since he's been president of the United States.
Finally, the FBI. The FBI is one of those things, for me, it's my issue number one, because if you have a corrupt federal law enforcement arm serving one party against the other, you don't have a country anymore. I'm glad that this House of Representatives appears to be getting more aggressive with them. What is the plan? We all know the FBI is going to do what they always do. They're going to stonewall. I'm sorry, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. Oh, whoops, I must have lost my notes. I left them at home. But then what are we going to be able to do from there once they do that?
Well, that one remains to be seen. The first thing I will tell you is House Republicans are committed to really getting to the bottom of this weaponization of the federal government, because it is clear what's been happening. We're starting to unravel the stuff that happened at Twitter. And if you know what happened at Twitter, it happened at Facebook and it happened at Google. So we're in the middle of that right now. But we're going to let the investigation speak for itself and let it lead us. What we're starting to come to the realization is that, yeah, some people need to get out of the FBI. There needs to be a restructuring over there. But the key part, and I don't want to bring politics into this because this is really to the core of our country, you're going to need a president who's willing to do the right thing about getting the FBI back on track. Because this version, with them picking and choosing what's important and what's not, and that also goes for the Department of Justice, don't want to leave them out. This version is not going to bode well for the American people long term.